Good morning, everyone. If I make mistakes, I'm doing it to support Marion because it's her first day, so I wanted to make her feel more comfortable. We kind of have committed to giving each other a hard time, but you haven't given me that, so I'm still waiting for that to happen there. First of all, happy anniversary to my beautiful wife. We're 25 years as of today, and she was kind enough to allow me to do what I love to do. So that's the kind of wife she is, you know. So I feel like I've just been saying and doing so many stupid things lately. I've been annoying people, not trying to. I guess I'm just very natural at it. And it's just been interesting lately. I'm finding more and more that I don't know. It's not what you want to hear from a speaker, but really confusion. I feel confusion lately. And, you know, I've always been taught that confusion is good because it means you're letting go of something, some kind of belief or idea that you're holding on to, and you're making room for a new possibility. I'd like to think that's what's going on with me right now. And we'll see how that plays out. So, I feel like, you know, walking a path of non-resistance has just been so beautiful for me in so many ways lately. The truth is, I have fought against life so hard. So much of the time, I just said in my life, I just don't want to be here. It wasn't to the point where I was going to commit suicide, you know, but I just wanted an easy out, you know, to just get away from life because it just felt so hard. When we moved around a lot, because Dad was in the Air Force, you know, kind of my go-to was sports. I was good at sports, and so when we moved to different places, I would find that it was easy for me to get picked on the teams, and kids liked me. But the truth is, they didn't really like me. They liked that I was good at sports, and I might help their team win. And that's just the truth of it. But, you know, life is so interesting because it just comes along, and I think it was your words, Nora, not yours, Linda, excuse me, in the reading, talking about the spiritual scalpel, you know, and how it removes that which shouldn't be there. And let's face it, there's a lot of things that shouldn't be here, you know, in who we have believed ourselves to be. So the spiritual scalpel for me was getting cancer, you know, and removing this idea that I'm this athlete, like that is who I am. And when I had it, and I know some of you have gone through the same experience, or we certainly know loved ones that have had it, I couldn't ride a bike with my son. I had a hard time walking upstairs. It just hurt. It was just painful. And so, who am I now? You know? I did a pretty good job of flowing with it in the aspect that Spirit was coaching me. They told me that I had it, and then I started experiencing, they were giving me guidance in different ways. And then one day they said, "Do you believe in magic?" And that was really all I needed to hear. I was gifted with this statement of, "Do you believe in magic?" And I said, "Yes, I do." After that, I really had trust and faith that life was going to take care of this whole situation. I didn't know where, I didn't know when, or I didn't know how, but I knew that it would. And so that's kind of been my life a lot where, and I think it's true for all of us that, you know, sometimes we're having certain experiences and we're like just fighting so hard against it, only to find out and discover that it's the greatest thing that could have possibly happened to us. I would say much of my life, I really considered myself an intelligent person. I really don't feel that's true very much anymore, to be honest with you. And I'm not saying that to try to diminish myself in some way, but I had a certain arrogance about what I knew, and and my wife and I, Laura, her and I would get in arguments sometimes because I thought I was smarter than her, and she thought she was smarter than me, you know? And so we would get in these arguments, and then all of a sudden we have this child that turns out I really didn't know much at all, because as soon as he was able to get his phone and started fact checking me all the time, I was like, damn it, I don't know that either, you know? And it just kept happening over and over, where there was just so much of that was needed, to be honest with you, to come back to a place of humility. I'm still not there, but I have a lot more humility than I used to. And part of it was because of Maverick, and just him being just a very highly intelligent, very wise person. And he's challenged me on so much of what I think and what I believe. And so we started playing some of these games, Wordle, and a lot of those. And I start off slow and I get better as it goes along, but there were certain games that they would just always beat me. I was like, I just am gonna lose. And so eventually I got to the point where I said to Laura, I go, all right, you're smarter than me. Let me just get that out of the way, So she's like, oh, okay, No, she really doesn't approach it that way, but I did say that to her because I felt like it's time for me to let go of this idea. Because really, in truth, it's not about being intelligent or unintelligent. It's not about being good athlete or a bad athlete. It's not. There's something deeper in the truth of who we are that goes beyond any labels. And I've had to be careful because I love what I do, and I feel I do a fairly good job of speaking and teaching meditation. My meditation classes, I feel like I've gone to another level in different ways. And it's hard, sometimes it's like you hook into that and people say, wow, you're really good at that. And you're like, yeah, I'm really good at that. And it's just really something we have to be careful with. Part of my confusion is, I've heard my teachers say, I think we've all heard this, is that we're not our thoughts, right? We meditate, we watch the thoughts come in, and we're observing the thoughts, but we're not being pulled into them, and we come back to the present moment. I think probably everybody has had that experience in here. And then there's you're not your feelings also, which is kind of the same thing, where we're believing the thought, so we have a feeling that comes along with it. And so consequently, we start identifying with that as our truth. And then the last piece is that we're not the doer of our deeds. What? What do you mean I'm not the doer of my deeds? Who else is doing this, That's the big question. Who else is doing this? Are we the ones that are in control? I had Spirit come to me in the morning time recently with a clear message. You're not in control. You're not in control of anything. And so who's in control? I mean, we feel that it's us making choices. We feel that we're in control. But is it possible that there's something expressing through this being, this person called Brett? And because I know one thing, I remain as the witness to all my thoughts. I remain as the witness to all my feelings. I remain as a witness to this one who is taking action in some way, the one who is speaking right here, right now. There is something that is conscious and aware of watching that. And when I'm in that place, I don't feel like I fight life at all. But when I step out of it, which is a lot of time, then I feel like I'm ready for a fight. I'm ready for a battle. It's kind of funny because, we talk about, many of us have taken a stand for something, or we fight for something. And I love Eckhart Tolle's words to say that when you are fighting for something, you're going to get a fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight against anything. And the other thing is, and I'm just curious, how many people believe that everything happens for a reason? So there's a fair amount of people in there. How many of those same people believe that the only exception is doesn't happen for a reason when it comes to politics? We tend to fight against life in so many ways, but personally as a non-dualist, and there's a lot of sages out there that speak on non-duality. One of the quotes that I love by Rumi says, "Beyond the ideas of wrongdoings and right doings, there is a field. I will meet you there." He speaks of the non-duality, this place that goes beyond right or wrong, good or bad. And to me, it's in that place that I'm able to flow with life better, because I get into this posture, which I know some of you in here do as well. And politics has been such a teacher for me in so many ways. But to be honest with you, there's seldom a day that goes by that I don't read something that I'm outraged by. And then I recognize that this too is my teacher. Because the reason we fight life, to me, is because there's either a fear or a pain that is there that we don't want to fully experience. And that's why we make it be about someone or something else, so that we don't have to experience that pain for ourselves. And it's not easy sometimes. It's really not easy, but I'm not finding that blame works. It just doesn't work. Not for me. I find myself doing it, and then I ask, do I believe everything happens for a reason? And for me, I do. Do I believe that I'm not even in control of this? Yes, I do. So I do my best to say, why then would I want to fight against life in any way? What perpetuates this? But it always comes back to the same thing of not wanting to acknowledge and be present with my own fear and my own pain. And like I said, it's not always easy to do that, but it's so powerful. I remember Rosie O'Donnell a long time ago. This was before Trump was president, and they had gotten this big battle, and just it was a very childish battle in so many ways. What they were name calling each other and just different things like that. And I remember when Oprah had asked Rosie O'Donnell, what would you do any different? And she said, I wish I could have just been present with my own pain rather than reacting to it. And that's really what it comes down to, right? We really just have to take back our power, really. It's to take back your power. To make someone else or something else the problem is always a feeling of being powerless, right? It's a feeling of being hopeless because you're resting your joy in somebody or something else's hands. Why would any of us want to live that way? To me, right now, everything that's happening in the world, I feel personally, I don't think we've ever had a better opportunity than to wake up to who we are than right now. And it's true, and it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but when we're talking about non-resistance, it doesn't mean that we pretend that we don't have feelings of frustration. It doesn't mean that we pretend we don't have feelings of anger or disappointment or whatever those so-called negative feelings are. It means that we acknowledge those and we see that these too are teachable moments. It's all teachable, but the question is whether we embrace it or we try to push it away. I want to read a couple quotes that I have for you. This one is by Eckhart Tolle. Don't look for any other state than the one you are in now. Otherwise, you will set up inner conflict and unconscious resistance. Forgive yourself for not being at peace. The moment you completely accept your non-peace becomes transmuted into peace. So sometimes when we acknowledge our anger, our frustration, or whatever it is, just acknowledging it and accepting it, that it's there, is healing. It's very healing. And he finishes by saying, anything you accept fully will get you there, will take you into peace. This is the miracle of surrender. This one here is by Thich Nhat Hanh. And I love this because a lot of times I know personally when I've spoken about peace or surrender, it sounds like it's passive in some way. But for those of you who have studied with Thich Nhat Hanh or, watched his teachings in some way, you see this embodiment of peace. I mean, I don't know anyone that I see that had more peace in their hearts than him. And it was just so beautiful. And he was the Nobel Peace Prize winner. So he wasn't passive. He was actively sharing this peace with the world. So here is his quote: "Real peace is not a barricade that separates you from the world. On the contrary, this kind of peace brings you into the world and empowers you to change society, to sow seeds of understanding, reconciliation, and compassion." That is not passive. That is absolutely beautiful to share that with the world. And to me, the greatest thing we have to offer the world is to step into and live from the peace and the truth of who we are. I truly believe there's no greater gift that we can give to the world. And I've heard Spirit say as such a long time ago to me, the greatest thing you can do, Brett, is to wake up to who you are. And so that's why I have my passion that I do. This one is by Robert Adams. Robert Adams, he pushes the envelope. And so you might feel that. You might not even agree with everything he says, and that's okay. I'm not here to convince you of anything. I'm just sharing my journey. And so you might know him from being a disciple of Ramana Maharshi. The first thing we have to understand is this, that everything in the universe, galaxies, stars, planets, suns, moons, people, places, cockroaches, animals, minerals, are all a manifestation of your mind, even God. All are all a projection of your own mind. You have invented your own gods with your mind, and it's that God that brings you misery because you look at God as Santa Claus. When your wishes are not fulfilled, you become upset. And you blame God. Little do you know that you have created your own God in your own image. Everything is a projection of your mind. Something to consider. You might say, I'm going to pass on that one, Brad. I don't know. But I want to share different perspectives because I feel like there's so many teachers saying the same thing. Give up the fight. And so this one here, this is from A Course in Miracles. "Let me not be your critic, Lord, today and judge against you. Let me not attempt to interfere with your creation and distort it into sickly forms. Let me be willing to withdraw my wishes from its unity and thus to let it be as you created it. For thus will I be able to recognize myself as you created me. In love was I created, and in love will I remain forever. What can frighten me when I let all things be exactly as they are?" Very, very beautiful and powerful. And then lastly, I would like to finish with Yogananda's teaching. He has a beautiful book called The Yoga of Jesus. And if you've not did any studies or readings with Yogananda, he's just very poetic. But he also has a book called The Second Coming of Christ, which is fantastic, where it compares kind of the Hindu teachings next to the Christian teachings, where you see everybody's trying to say the same thing, right? It's all about love, it's all about peace, it's all about joy. So this is actually in response to speaking of blessed are the meek. Blessed are the meek. And because we have this certain idea what meek means. So this is, at first glance, people often think meek means weak, timid, or submissive. But in the spiritual sense, meekness is inner strength without ego, the strength of humility, surrender, and alignment with divine will. It's not about being powerless. It's about letting go of the ego's need to dominate, control, or resist. So Yogananda teaches that meekness means non-resistance to God's flow. The meek are not those who do not fight reality, who release attachment and self-will, and who rest in the current of spirit. And I always think of, non-resistance, I always think of it like a river flowing. You don't see the river fighting against the rocks. It just simply goes around it. It acknowledges it's there. It doesn't pretend that it's not there. It doesn't pretend like there's not a problem or a challenge. It simply flows with it. Such a person becomes a channel of divine strength, calm, unshakable, inwardly free. And he also speaks of the ego and says, what he says about the ego is, I must fight for what's mine. Please hear those words, because a lot of people can probably relate to it. I must fight for what's mine. But Yogananda says, let go and the whole world will be yours. Let go and the whole world will be yours. Just stop trying to control it. Stop trying to fight against it. Stop trying to create it. And that's the thing. We're so trained to create the life that we want. But I'm finding more and more, it's not about creating the life that I want. It's about getting out of the way to see that the life I've always wanted is already here. But we're so busy trying to control and manipulate and create something that we think is good, but it's not a something. It's a letting go of. It's taking the spiritual scalpel and removing what should not be there. And that is simply God's grace. God's grace, where he's helping us to remove these things that aren't the truth and to see that life is already good. Creation is already beautiful and perfect, but we have to first get out of the way in order to experience that. Well, I've read more than I usually do. I usually don't read anything, in fact. I am finding for myself with non-resistance, man, it's just so freeing. It's so freeing to stop fighting against life in any way. And there's so much peace to be had right here in this moment. It's only when we step out of the moment that we start experiencing the struggle and the fight against life in the way it is. But non-resistance is really surrendering, like we say, well, what is my will? In A Course in Miracles, it says God's will and your will are the same. If you can surrender, fully surrender into God's will, and truly say in your heart, I don't want to fight against anything in life. You bring me whatever experience you want to bring. Then there is peace in that. So the question is, all these so-called bad things happening today, all these so-called corrupt things happening today, all these so-called evil things happening today, would you rather they go away, or would you rather put your trust in faith in something greater that's unfolding exactly the way it needs to? And I don't know what you'll choose. I don't know what you choose. I know what I choose. I know where peace lies for me. And that is, I don't want to change any of it, because I feel from a spiritual perspective, Spirit knows far more than what I do personally about what needs to happen. And so for me, the more I sink into that, just the more and more I feel grateful for everything and how it's unfolding. Check in with me tomorrow, you might hear differently. But today, I'm grateful, and I'm going to stay in that place as much as I can. So I'm going to leave you just with one exercise if you're open for it. And that is just for this day, accept everything. Accept everything. Just do your best to flow with it. And again, it doesn't mean that you don't have feelings or frustration or anger that comes up. Accept those as well. Everything that presents itself, your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences, can you just accept it just for one day and see if it doesn't have a powerful and positive impact on your life? Thank you so much.